For 100 years, gas cars ruled our roads and shaped our world. But the 2030 EV boom is set to erase that dominance almost overnight. By the end of this decade, entire city blocks, businesses, even the air we breathe, could transform beyond recognition. What does a world without gasoline engines truly look and feel like? And what hidden costs will finally come to light when the roar goes silent? The answer begins at the dawn of the engine age. Highways once carved deep scars through the heart of American cities, splitting neighborhoods and redefining the landscape in the name of speed and convenience. In the post-war boom, entire downtowns were bulldozed to make way for elevated expressways, concrete corridors that funneled cars from the new suburbs straight to city centers. The suburbs themselves sprawled outward, built on the promise of easy commutes and affordable land, each home with a driveway and a garage. Gas stations became as common as corner stores, their neon signs glowing at every major intersection, a network of refueling points that mapped the city's priorities. City planners, under pressure to accommodate rising car ownership, widened roads and built vast parking lots, often at the expense of parks, small businesses, and walkable neighborhoods. The result was a landscape designed for movement, not for lingering. Streets grew wider, blocks longer, and public transit faded into the background as cars took center stage. This physical legacy is still visible today. The looping on-ramps, the seas of asphalt surrounding shopping malls, the rows of single-family homes stretching to the horizon. The internal combustion engine didn't just move people, it shaped the very bones of our cities, dictating how land was used and who had access to what. As the world stands on the edge of the 2030 EV boom, these choices, made over decades, offer both a challenge and an opportunity for reimagining urban life in a world no longer built around the gas pump. Every trip in a gasoline car carries a hidden bill, one that starts long before the engine turns over and lingers long after the vehicle is parked for good. The full life cycle of a gas-powered car begins with oil extraction, a process that scars landscapes and pollutes water supplies from Alberta's tar sands to the Niger Delta. Refineries then burn enormous amounts of energy, releasing toxic particulates and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The fuel is shipped across oceans, exposed to the volatility of global markets, and delivered to local pumps, each step adding to the environmental ledger. Oil shocks in the 1970s and 2000s exposed just how much entire economies could be upended by a sudden price spike or supply cut, tying national security and family budgets to distant wells and unstable regimes. But the cost doesn't end with geopolitics or carbon. Urban air pollution from tailpipes is linked to tens of thousands of premature deaths each year, with children and the elderly most at risk. Asthma rates soar in neighborhoods near highways and busy roads, while heart and lung diseases quietly shorten lives across entire cities. The World Health Organization estimates that outdoor air pollution, much of it from vehicles, kills over 4 million people annually. Even as catalytic converters and cleaner fuels have helped, the internal combustion engine remains a primary driver of urban smog and respiratory illness. Life cycle studies comparing gas cars to electric vehicles consistently show that, even after accounting for battery manufacturing, the total environmental burden of gasoline vehicles is far higher. From the first drop of oil to the last puff of exhaust, the engine era has left a tab that can't be paid at the pump. Step onto a city street in 2030, and the first thing that strikes you is the quiet. The deep mechanical drone of engines has faded, replaced by the softer sounds of footsteps, laughter, and the faint hum of electric motors. For the first time in generations, city air feels noticeably cleaner. The sharp tang of exhaust is gone, and the persistent haze over urban skylines has begun to lift. For millions living near busy roads, this isn't just a pleasant change. It's a breath of relief. The transformation is visible at ground level. Where rows of gas stations once dominated corners and intersections, new features have emerged. Some old forecourts have been cleared, the earth beneath them scrubbed clean of fuel leaks and heavy metals. In London, city-owned land that once served as car parks or petrol stations has been auctioned off for public charging projects. These sites now host ultra-fast chargers, coffee stands, and even small parks. The UK has set an ambitious goal, at least 300,000 public charge points by the end of the decade, a number that dwarfs today's network and ensures that charging is never more than a short walk away in most urban centers. Charging points have become part of the street furniture, integrated into lampposts, tucked into curbside spaces, and lining the edges of parking garages. For many, plugging in a car is as routine as tapping a contactless card. The infrastructure is designed for daily life, not just for early adopters. This is the foundation that makes mass EV adoption possible. A city where the need to hunt for a gas station has simply disappeared. Maria Alvarez grew up in the shadow of her family's gas station, a fixture on a busy Los Angeles avenue since the 1970s. By 2024, the steady flow of customers had slowed to a trickle. Maria watched as regulars filled up less often, some arriving in silent electric cars that never touched the pumps. Facing mounting losses, she made a decision that split her family. She closed the station, pulled the tanks, and took out a risky loan to transform the site into a rapid charging hub. Her father called it betrayal. Local car clubs staged protests, mourning the loss of a neighborhood landmark. But Maria pressed on, overseeing months of soil remediation and wrangling with city permits. By 2027, the old forecourt had become something new: a bank of ultra-fast chargers, a corner cafe, and a weekly open-air market. Maria's gamble paid off. The business turned profitable, drawing in commuters, rideshare drivers, and families who lingered over coffee while their cars topped up. Her site became a model for the city's green retrofit program, earning her a municipal award in 2029. Maria's story mirrors what's happening on a global scale. Battery manufacturing is projected to top 9 terawatt-hours by 2030, enough to power hundreds of millions of vehicles. The power electronics market is set to surge past $38 billion, driven by demand for inverters, converters, and grid integration tech. Battery recycling, once an afterthought, is now a booming sector, creating new jobs and closing the loop on critical minerals. For every site like Maria's, thousands more are being reimagined, linking local entrepreneurship to a global industrial revolution. July 2027, California. As the grid groaned under record-breaking heat, grid operators watched demand spike hour by hour. In Bakersfield, a pilot program flicked on. Thousands of electric vehicles, plugged in at homes and depots, began sending power back into the system. Dispatchers tracked the flow in real time, watching as vehicle-to-grid technology shaved enough load to keep the lights on. Barely. Internal logs from that week read like a war room diary. Every kilowatt counted, every decision scrutinized by regulators and auditors in the aftermath. But the wires that power this new world are only as strong as their weakest link. In Kolwezi, Democratic Republic of Congo, a 2025 cobalt mine collapse exposed the brutal realities behind battery supply chains. Audit trails traced the metal through a U.S. factory and into showroom-ready electric vehicles. Whistleblowers described ghost inspections and missing paperwork, igniting a storm over ethical sourcing. Then, in December 2028, Brand X's flagship SUV, touted for its cutting-edge solid-state battery, was pulled from the market after a garage fire went viral. Engineers pored over batch records, and a full recall swept the industry, forcing a reckoning with the risks of racing ahead. Each crisis revealed just how quickly progress can stall and how urgent real fixes have become. Deadlines are now written into law, and the countdown is public. Canada has committed that by 2030, at least 60% of new vehicles sold must be zero emission, with a full phase-out of gas car sales by 2035. The European Union and California have drawn similar lines in the sand, and the auto industry is responding with a flood of investment. More than $100 billion is already committed to new battery plants, model lines, and supply chains. For policymakers and corporate strategists, 2030 is not just another milestone, it's a finish line. The pressure is relentless. Every quarter brings new targets, new regulations, and new bets on which technology wins. Yet, the forecasts diverge. Some see a future where EVs make up more than 40% of global sales by decade's end, while skeptics warn the real number could stall at 25%, held back by grid bottlenecks, consumer hesitation, and the stubborn appeal of hybrids. The race is on, but the outcome is far from settled. In 2023, electric vehicles made up 18% of new car sales worldwide, a figure projected to rise to over 40% by 2030, according to the International Energy Agency. This shift marks the fastest transformation in personal transportation since the invention of the automobile. The evidence is clear. EVs cut urban air pollution, reduce noise, and limit reliance on volatile oil markets. Yet, major questions remain. The full environmental cost of battery supply chains, the resilience of electric grids, and equitable access to clean transport are challenges not yet fully solved. Policy mandates and more than $100 billion in industry investment now drive this transition, but some regions and communities still face significant hurdles. The era of gasoline dominance is ending, replaced by a new system built on electricity and innovation. What happens next depends on how these unresolved issues are addressed. The 2030 EV boom stands as a turning point, measured not just by technology, but by the choices we make today, documented in official records and unfolding in real time.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy thoughtful stories about electric vehicles and future innovations, consider subscribing. There's plenty more to come.